Whoa!
Great time. And hopefully next year.
And maybe even some older owners is. But I'm back.
Hey there fools, Mr. T here, with a video discussing one of my favorite games of all time that should have became one of my favorite game series, but unfortunately didn't. And that game series is Perfect Dark. Now, as we all know, Perfect Dark launched on the N64 in the year 2000. The year 2000. Fools. Anyway, Perfect Dark was a pseudo-sequel to GoldenEye 007. When not wanting to procure the license again for another James Bond game, Rare decided to go ahead and make their own property using the mechanics and the engine from GoldenEye 007, one of the biggest hits on the N64. Taking what they learned from making that game, Rare decided to add a sci-fi element and a female protagonist for Perfect Dark, named Joanna. Armed with a multitude of futuristic weapons and gadgets, Perfect Dark was a surefire hit. It was pushing the N64 to its limits with awesome lighting and a plethora of game modes that required the use of the N64 expansion pack to be able to play everything in the game. Now, after releasing in the year 2000, Perfect Dark, like I said, was an immediate hit, and Rare, after the game was released, went on ahead into developing the sequel. And the sequel started development on the Nintendo GameCube, but as we all know, Rare was acquired early in the GameCube lifecycle by Microsoft, and production of the next Perfect Dark game went over to the original Xbox. And the sequel to Perfect Dark finally came out on the Xbox 360 in 2005. And of course, it wasn't well received. And one of the reasons was the big changes to the visual art style of the game, as well as the mechanics and just the overall visual design of the game. The controls obviously weren't as intuitive, and the level design definitely left something to be desired. And don't get me started on the enemy AI. Ooh. But one of the things I always thought was that the game looked a little weird. And after doing some research for this video, I learned that the game, like I said, started development on the GameCube and moved over to the original Xbox and was set to come out for that system. And once I learned that, I realized that was probably one of the reasons why the game looked kind of subpar visually. And like I said, the game was basically a flop. It didn't sell well, and deservedly so. It wasn't a good game. And while all of the reasons I mentioned earlier contributed to why the game wasn't good and didn't do well, I think the biggest problem with Perfect Dark Zero was that it didn't evolve properly. Sure, Joanna Dark went from this cool, sexy, badass chick to being in Perfect Dark Zero and looking like a Punky Brewster type cartoon character. What were they thinking? But honestly, that was the only problems with the game. Like I said, the game should have evolved gameplay-wise, and it really didn't. And to me, the perfect evolution of Perfect Dark would have been something along the lines of a Deus Ex. Now, I'm not really talking about the original Deus Ex, which coincidentally launched the same year as the original Perfect Dark, the year 2000. And the games both share some similarities, being that they're in a futuristic world where large corporations basically act as governments. But the original Deus Ex was way more RPG than would have been necessary for a game like Perfect Dark. And that leads me to Deus Ex Human Revolution. That, to me, would have been the perfect, proper evolution of Perfect Dark. Like I said, they're set in similar worlds. A sci-fi futuristic world where large corporations act as governments and security firms. In Perfect Dark, you have Datadyne. In Deus Ex Human Revolution, you have Seraph Industries. And one of the things I noticed right off the bat when I first booted up Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut for Wii U was the Electric City look to it and the flying vehicles that swoop by windows in large skyscrapers. Very similar to the stuff you would see in a movie like Blade Runner. And obviously both of these games are easily influenced by that masterpiece of a film. Just imagine Joanna Dark in that badass stealth suit where you can do upgrades to your suit and add new abilities and weapons. Kind of like augmenting, but a little different. One of the coolest things about the world of Perfect Dark was the weapons. One of my favorites being a laptop gun, which would fit right at home in a game like Deus Ex Human Revolution. There's still a chance that could happen. If Microsoft is smart, they'll reboot this series and take a page out of Deus Ex Human Revolution. It could be another flagship title for Microsoft, and it seems like Phil Spencer has a good head on his shoulders. And wants to maximize profits through their first-party games. And this would be a game that I believe Microsoft could revamp and revitalize and do very well with. And also Jet Force Gemini. Can we get some damn Jet Force Gemini love, please? But really, this is one of the rare games, no pun intended, that I think Microsoft should bring back and use Deus Ex Human Revolution as a blueprint. It was just a quick thought of mine, but what do you fools think? Do you want another Perfect Dark? And do you think the world, mechanics, and gameplay from Deus Ex is a good blueprint for Join the Dark's future games? Let me know in the comments below. Alright fools, I'm gonna be doing a review on Deus Ex Human Revolution for the Wii U pretty soon. I would have done it a long time ago, but my old AverMedia capture card wasn't very reliable, and the files that it output would make my video editor go haywire. And it was a good reason for me to play the game over again, because I did have a great time playing it the first time. So be looking out for that. And speaking of Deus Ex, I'm gonna leave you fools here with the first boss battle from the game. Alright fools, that's it for this one, and I'll see you next time.
Well, looky here. We got us a Boy Scout.
He must be the one who mucked up my operation at the morgue.
Get rid of him, Barrett.
Oh, that's gonna be a pleasure.
Here it comes, Boy Scout!
Don't die on me yet. This Boy Scout's got a few questions to ask. Your leader, the one who called you Barrett. Who is he? Why is FEMA sending you after Seraph Industries?
FEMA? You think FEMA gives a rat's ass about some rinky-dink biotech corporation's company secrets? You got worse enemies than FEMA.
Yeah? Like who? Who?
Get to Shanghai. Hingsha Court Gardens. Penthouse. Tell him... Tell him... Tell him Barrett sent you straight to hell!
Oh yeah, one more thing. Play Nintendo, fools. Yeah. Whoa.